What's up, my comic comrades? Over the past few weeks, Marvel has been slowly teasing the Sentry's big entrance into the MCU with the first couple of trailers for the Thunderbolts movie. Up to this point, we've seen Bob, gotten a look at the Void, and a couple of off-screen shots of Sentry just flexing on people. And while we're likely to get a full character reveal with the next big trailer drop, what we've seen has us excited enough to bring you guys the origin of this Marvel powerhouse. Because let me tell you something, this is no small addition to the MCU franchise. As far as power sets go, Sentry is one of Marvel's Superman-like heroes, just with a much darker edge and character profile. So before we get to his live-action debut in the Thunderbolts movie this May, we're going to give you his comic book origin along with an overview of his powers and abilities. But enough chit-chat, let's find out where this Golden Guardian of Good got his start. And yes, that's his actual nickname. Now, on with the show. The first thing to note is that Sentry is actually a fairly young character in comics, as he was first introduced in the Sentry issue 1 by Paul Jenkins and artist Jay Lee, which was published in September of 2000. That became a 5-issue miniseries that gave us what is still the best version of the Sentry's origin to date. Issue 1 would start off with the man who became Sentry, Robert Reynolds, waking up in bed saying he's back. His wife says, "Bob, is someone here?" He says to himself, "It's nothing. She doesn't need to know. Tell her it's nothing." She then asks again, "Bob, what is it, hun?" He tells her, "Nothing. Just go back to sleep, okay? I need to let the dog out. It's just the storm. I'll take care of it." Robert then walks downstairs and says, "It wasn't just your imagination. It was real. You know it. That was a sound you've not heard since." How long has it been? Months? Years maybe? Could it have been that long? Everything seems distant, as if you're coming awake from a perpetual dream. "What's happened to you, Bob? Where have you been?" As he goes to his bookshelf to grab a book. He continues to tell himself, "You try to remember how you got here, into this house even, but it's as though you're looking at your memories through someone else's eyes. Only you know you heard the laughter. It's a sound you promised yourself you'd never forget. No doubt about it. The Void has returned." After all this time, somehow, he's found a way back to Earth. You imagine you can see him hiding in the storm. That would be just how he'd make his play. If it's the Void, he'll be stronger than ever before. The danger will be beyond measure. After, there will be only one hope for humanity: you. As we see him open the book and take out a bottle of something. It's here. We then get the origin of Sentry retro style, and it bounces back and forth from how he got his powers to in the present. The bottle hidden inside the book is the formula that gave him his powers, and I gotta say, I love how they interwove his origin in Silver Age Marvel style, with it saying startling stories featuring the Sentry, with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. You asked for it, loyal readers, introducing the greatest of them all, the Golden Guardian of Good. Are you ready for the secret of the Sentry? We then see Robbie as a young man discovering the Professor's secret formula, as he says, "Gosh, this must be the Professor's secret formula." A formula that was trying to recreate the super soldier serum. We also see Robbie holding it in the present while talking to his dog, saying, "We must be vigilant, watchdog, for we are humanity's only hope." As we see in the past him drinking the formula for the first time, as captions say, suddenly a miraculous transformation takes place. The boy glows with an unknown energy. Captions continue, using his newfound powers, meek young freshman Robbie Reynolds, the Sentry counters the blow swiftly. As we see Robbie defeating a school bully, no doubt an homage to Peter Parker beating Flash Thompson when he first got his powers. And we see this in the present while Robert is opening the bottle of formula that gave him his powers. But as we continue to get his origin from the past, the comic reads, that evening, the resourceful freshman puts the finishing touches to the marvelous golden suit he has fashioned. Which is always a big moment for any hero or villain. And speaking of big moments, there's always plenty of them at a great Comic-Con, and one of the best in the country is AwesomeCon in Washington, D.C. AwesomeCon is a 3-day celebration of geek culture, bringing over 60,000 fans together with their favorite stars from across comics, movies, TV, toys, games, and more. And this year's all-star celebrity lineup includes Miranda Bakarin from Deadpool, several cast members from The Lord of the Rings, including Orlando Bloom, and Simon Pegg from The Boys. They also have a Goonies 40th anniversary reunion with Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Carrie Green, and the Fratellis. And for Turtle fans, they've got a 35th anniversary panel with key cast. But as always, you'll also have a chance to see and meet your favorite comic writers and artists, cosplayers, and voice actors. And did I mention Artist Alley, the autographs and photo ops, and tabletop and video gaming? It'll all be there. Not to mention, AwesomeCon is a family-friendly event, so if you've got kids, you could bring them to experience AwesomeCon Junior, which is a cool idea. I'm telling you, if you've never been to a con before, you gotta check this out. There is nothing quite like it. It all goes down at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C., April 4th through the 6th. That's right, the big event is April 4th through the 6th, which is peak cherry blossom weekend in DC. A little fun fact for you. Anyway, it's right around the corner, so click our link to buy your badges now at awesomecon.com. Now jumping back to Sentry's origin, on the next page of the issue, captions from the present tell us, your golden suit hangs in here, untouched, since the day you last wore it. If the Void truly has returned, you'll have no choice, Bob, as Robert stares at a closet door. Captions go on to say, "You're going to have to wear it again. You're going to have to become the Sentry. The super serum. It's been years since you. It's been years. It's come over you in a rush. Warm, wonderful, an unutterable force. Like a million little exploding suns. It feels so good," as Bob drinks the serum. And then the memories flow. Welcome thoughts of glories past. It's as if you just opened a surprise package you sent yourself in the mail. You remember a picture, an iconic image that even you are proud of. You're not supposed to be proud, but this is different. The photograph is a reflection of you. It's the encapsulation of your benevolent intent that sent 6 billion people safely into dreamland over time. You watched over the world. It's your sworn duty. Robert tells himself, no, that didn't happen. Did that happen? It was a comic book you read when you were a kid, or a TV show, as he's having all these thoughts and old memories come back to him, not knowing if they're real or not. Okay, with that said, let's go back to Sentry as he stares at the storm. His mind says, but the void is real. He has to be real. You know him almost as well as you know yourself. What's wrong with you? Why is it so hard to remember? As he remembers the Avengers fighting the void long ago and defeating them, laughing, saying, not a chance, Iron Man. With the Avengers held captive, surely the mighty Sentry will soon follow. At which point Sentry does show up sooner than the void thought and defeats the void. With the void saying, I will return, Sentry, I will return. In the present, Robert says, I will return. He always said that. Even when you thought him beaten forever, he'd say it. He always kept his word. Something's happening, something indecipherable. You can no more describe it than swallow your own throat. It's there, right in front of you. Why can't you see it? Who are you? The short of it is, Robert Reynolds realizes that his old arch nemesis, the Void, is somehow returning, which forces his subconscious to remember who he once was. Now, obviously, the big question is, why did he forget he was the Sentry all those years ago in the first place? At this point, we'll jump to Act 2, where Robert goes in search of what happened and who he once was. We see Robert is standing on top of a crane, meeting with Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic says, you have some explaining to do, sir. How did you get up here? Robert answers, same way as always. I've been here before, Reed, many times. You just don't remember. You won't even try to. No one remembers me, and I can't explain why. Reed says, should I? And Robert says, yes. I don't know how to make you understand. Somehow, everyone's been conditioned to forget I ever existed. You're supposed to think I'm just some drunk who took a wrong turn. I don't know what's happened. I think there may have been some kind of conspiracy, but as the issue continues, Reed and the rest of the Fantastic Four start to remember who Sentry is after finding a unicorn statue gifted to Reed by Reynolds when Reed attended his wedding, as well as finding a VHS tape Reed apparently recorded long ago to remind his present self of Sentry's existence. A tape that inevitably leads Reed to Doctor Strange to find out the truth. As the 5-issue series continues, the Sentry would meet other heroes like Hulk and Spider-Man, who also slowly begin to remember Robert Reynolds and who he was. In fact, that iconic picture of Sentry we saw in issue 1 that Robert was saying was a reflection of himself was taken by Peter Parker long ago and actually won the Pulitzer Prize. With that said, it's in issue 4 and 5 of the series, the last 2 issues of said miniseries, that we learn why Sentry didn't know who he was and why the world forgot about him. You see, the big twist is Sentry and the Void are one and the same. The Void in essence is just the repressed evil persona of Robert Reynolds that is magnified and powered by Sentry's own powers given to him by the serum. So when the Avengers and Sentry found out about this, they ultimately decided that the Sentry must die. But not actually die, just die in the eyes of everyone on Earth and even to Sentry himself. You see, the only way to stop the Void from escaping and destroying the world was to get rid of Sentry. But instead of killing the Sentry in the traditional sense, since 1, that's borderline impossible, and 2, they wouldn't want to do that to their friend, Reed, Doctor Strange, and Robert created a device, the Sentry Watchtower, that made everyone on Earth forget that Robert Reynolds was Sentry, even Reynolds himself. And in doing so, this would effectively get rid of the Void, because if the Void and Sentry don't remember they exist, they're effectively dead. As the 5-issue series comes to an end, the device that made everyone forget would be turned off and Sentry would be remembered by everyone once again. However, this also meant the Void was free once again to attack Manhattan. This leads to Sentry talking to the public, assuring them the Void will submit, as he calls on his fellow heroes to fight with him. They do, as we see Hulk, Spider-Man, Captain America, Angel, and more answer his call, ready to fight the Void. This then leads us into the Sentry Void one-shot issue, where we see Sentry and several Marvel heroes face off against the Void. But by the end of the issue, Robert realizes there's no way he can exist without the Void, and that the only way to stop the Void is to make himself and everyone else forget who he is once again, as he, Reed, and Strange reactivate the Watchtower, thus stopping the Void. But once again, the world forgets of Sentry's existence, although the comic ends with Robert seemingly still remembering who he really is. But there you have it, friends, the very complicated origin and brief history of how Sentry came to be. We will get more in depth with it when we eventually give him a full-on history of episode, including where his story goes from here, but again, for now, you could see he's a very complex hero. But now that you know his origin, let's talk about his powers and abilities. Sentry is often referred to as Marvel's Superman, mainly because of his power set. He has super strength, rivaling or potentially even greater than the Hulk and Thor, invulnerability, flight, superhuman speed, and enhanced senses, all powered by his ability to absorb solar radiation as stated on Marvel's official website. This is where the term his power is like that of a million exploding suns comes from. But the nutty thing is, his power doesn't stop there. No, it greatly surpasses that, because he also has energy projection. That's right, he could shoot all kinds of different forms of energy from his person. He even has telekinesis and telepathy on top of having a fantastic healing factor. Speaking of, he also possesses immortality. So even if you kill Sentry, you don't really kill the Sentry. He always comes back. But then there's his molecular manipulation. That's right, Sentry can manipulate molecules, meaning he can alter all matter. That alone makes him insanely powerful. Case in point, Sentry used this ability to defeat Molecule Man, whose main ability is molecule manipulation. And then there's the Void, his repressed dark persona. The Void is a malevolent entity that all on its own is extremely powerful, even exceeding Sentry's powers, and it's part of him. All around, Sentry is easily one of the most powerful superheroes in all of comics, which is often why he's touted as Marvel's Superman, even though I would personally give that title to Hyperion. But either way, Sentry is a beast, and it's going to be very interesting to see what Marvel does with him in the MCU. I mean, overall, the movie looks like Marvel has taken a more gritty approach to the Thunderbolts, so it could be a major sleeper, which has us cautiously optimistic. But with Marvel's recent track record, they'll need to prove it on the big screen. So that's as far as we're willing to go. Anyway, that wraps up our basic overview on Sentry and his origin. So now it's your turn to tell us what you think of the character down in the comments. It's always fun for us to see what you guys have to say, and other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.